This podcast may contain graphic and/or explicit content that may not be suitable for some listeners, especially kids like me. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Real Life Podcast, brought to you by the Thin Blue Line for Women. In this podcast, we open up and talk about real life issues as they relate to first responders. It's raw, it's real, and it's about time. I'm Tamara, your host. Thanks for joining me. Thank you all for joining me for Season 2, Episode 2 of the Real Life Podcast. In this episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Tia Johnson, the host of the Resting Mom Face podcast. Tia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course. So to start off, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Tia, and I have a podcast called the Resting Mom Face podcast. I'm an Army wife. I am the mother of a almost 4-year-old, and I have a lot of crazy things that happen, and that's why I started the podcast.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what do you do for an actual living? Is your podcast your career?
I wish. I really wish it was. But no, I'm actually a licensed cosmetologist. So I've been licensed for going on 10 years now. And I did hair for a while. And then I got into makeup artistry. And now I am a lash extension artist, which is very specific. But that
I did not know this about you.
Yeah. So that's
wow.
One way that I make a living. And then I make a little bit off of the podcast and other voiceover work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when did you start your podcast? And I only found you maybe 2 months ago, I believe.
Yeah. I actually started it back in 2018, early 2018, like January. And it was a different podcast. It was called The Beauty Room. And it's how I discussed all things beauty related. I actually did a kind of a live episode from a Jeffree Star makeup meet and greet. I did interview with some makeup artists and things like that. But I decided that I didn't want to kind of box myself into that one subject because I'm very eclectic. I like a lot of different things. I have many aspects of my life that I wanted to talk about and explore. And so I changed it from the beauty room to the resting mom face.
Got you. Okay. So, but when did you actually change the name?
So I changed the name in, I believe it was August of 2019. So that's really where my podcast starts now that you'll find. The rest of it is all locked away in the vault.
So where did you get that name, Resting Mom Face Podcast? Because to me, when I first hear that, this may be totally wrong and way off, but what I think of is like you're so tired that you like fall down on your desk and you have that mom face. So is that where it came from, or am I off?
Well, so it actually came from people may know, like people say that you have like resting bitch face. Mm-hmm. That's where it comes from because you just kind of have that face that's like stoic kind of. And on the inside, you could be feeling all different ways, but on the outside, you look one way. And people told me that I always had that. And then I started getting Botox and it just kind of came from there. And then one day I saw a t-shirt and it said resting mom face. And I was like, that's it. That's my, like, I love this. And then when I was coming up with names for the podcast, that came across my mind again. And I thought this has to be it. And so I Googled and made sure no one else had it and made it mine.
Love it. I love it. So what is your podcast about? Like name everything that you've talked about.
What isn't my podcast about? And that's one thing my husband's like, you need to find a niche to get into to like, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be bogged down. So, the first episode is I interview a a guy from Ireland who makes audios for a living. Like he makes these audios, and they're like totally immersive, and they're actually romantic audios, if you will. Erotic audios, some of them are, but he also does meditations and things like that. So that was fascinating to me. I just recently interviewed a former WWE wrestler.
I saw the picture today. I was like, is this real?
Yeah. The Pharaoh, Tony Ricca. And we just had a great conversation. I talk with other parents. I have interviewed Nick from the Roll Call Room podcast twice. And just anything and everything that affects my life or that I think other people might be interested in. Mm-hmm. I really have no boundaries, I guess, when it comes to subjects. It's whatever I'm fascinated with at that moment. But I do try to bring it back to how it relates to me. So in the end, it's all going to relate back to being a parent, being a mom, and being a Army spouse. Kind of in the end, that's what it's going to come down to.
Okay. So what about your art for your podcast? Where did you find the art? Did you do it by yourself?
No.
Don't tell me that you're like this great artist also.
No. No, it would have been
really bad if you're an artist as well.
It would have been a stick figure. No, actually, I kind of went out looking for a graphic artist, and I found this one person who I liked what they had done, and I just hired them to do some. They sent me a few, and I said, I love this. Can you change that color? Let's do that, and stuck with it. So that'll be my logo for a while. But I'm always changing things up. So it'll probably be like every 6 months I'll have a different a different logo done up, just because I love to mix things up.
So have you been a guest on other podcasts?
To be honest, I actually was a guest on for 3 episodes. I was a guest on a podcast called the Braless Podcast. And this is by Erin Whitehead. And she and I have been acquaintances. And I say acquaintances because we've never, ever met in person. She was a editor for Millspouse magazine. And I wrote a piece for them back in like 2014, I want to say. So she and I had been together kind of through the internet since then. And then she started this podcast, the Braless Podcast. And she was like, hey, I'm looking for guests, for people. And I said, well, I'll come on. She goes, okay, great. Well, the first one was a hit. It was just hilarious. We talked about being a parent and crazy things that happen. We talked about like just so many things. And then I came back again because her audience loved it and came back again. And this was before I even started a podcast. So those are still available out there. If you want to listen to it, it's the Braless Podcast, and it's pretty funny. Those were more comedy things. It was not very serious.
And you're on 3 of her episodes.
3 of her episodes,
right?
Yeah.
And were you a guest on the Roll Call Room or no? You interviewed them. Okay.
Yeah, and I've actually not even talked to Mike. It's just Nick. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, someday when he's available.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna hit him up.
Yep.
So what platforms can listeners find your podcast?
Currently I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Overcast. I think it's pretty much everywhere that you can find podcasts. I think I'm also on Amazon, how they offer up podcasts. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm pretty much on all platforms right now.
Okay. Now you also narrate for Audible books.
I do. Yes. I got into that in October of last year.
Oh, so perfect timing for me.
Yes.
And my book.
Yes.
Because That's funny timing, because October was the month that I finally said, okay, I've got to give myself a deadline with my book, Through My Eyes, because I've been trying to write it for so long. And I finally I remember October very well. And I said, Tam, you just have to sit down and write and get this done. And I gave myself till February 4th, and then, a lot of people were writing me on Facebook and Twitter, and even messages saying, hey, is it going to be available on Audible? And everything that I had already researched, it was so expensive. And I'm like, I'm not rich. Like this writing of the book did not make any money.
Right.
Let me tell you. And that's not what it was for and about anyway. But I thought, I can't fork out all this money for an Audible book. But so many people were asking for Audibles, and I had no idea that people liked books on Audible. So this was just a freak. And I don't even think you and I talked about this yet. This was just a freak thing that I don't even know, Tia, to be honest, where I found it. Either Amazon sent me an email, or it was in one of my Amazon pages. I don't even know. And I clicked on it, on the Audible link, and I read all about it, and it said, oh, you can do it for free. Yeah. You can split the money with the narrator. And I went, oh, I'm there. I'm so there. And that's when I signed up for it. And it happened relatively quickly. I mean, really quick. I signed up. I asked for auditions. I got about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. I can't even remember. And you were one of them. And I didn't even know you then. I had no idea about you.
Here's what's really crazy is, so I found out about you through the Roll Call Room podcast. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, females in law enforcement. Like, I'm really interested in that. And then I saw that you were writing a book, and I love to read. So I was like, oh, I should probably read that. That's going to be a good book. And then I thought to myself, like, wow, I wonder if she's going to do a audiobook. And it just kind of like went through my mind. And then I remember very specifically, because I was driving to work that morning, and I messaged, I was talking to my husband, and I said, I think I should just message her and ask her if she's going to do an audiobook. And then it left my mind. And that night, or the next day, I went on ACX, which is the website, to look up some new books to audition for, because I like to try and do like one book at a time. And then when I'm about to finish, I go and look for some more to audition for. And yours popped up there, and it was just, it was meant to be. It was divine intervention. It had to be, because I immediately recorded my audition, sent it off, and then I messaged you through Twitter, and I was like, hey, I auditioned. This is what I do this. Like, I've done this before. And it was perfect.
Yeah. And what's funny is I had already heard your audition before you sent me that text or that message. Yeah. So it was really good that because I mean, it made it very subjective, or not subjective, objective.
Yes.
I'm tired. We're recording this late for me. But I'm glad that I did not know about you before that, because then I got to just clear my mind, and I didn't know who these people were. I just, had to listen to their voices. And I had my daughter listen too. I said, well, which one do you like? And so it came down to be you, and I didn't even know it was you, which was awesome. So, let me ask you a couple questions then, since you like narrating books. How do you prepare yourself to do the narration? Like, do you read through the books first, just to get to know, what the book's about, or like, how do you do it?
Well, it depends. So a book like yours, well, let me go back. So mostly I've done fiction, like novel type things. Yeah. And I do like to kind of skim through the book to kind of see where it's going. And I also ask the author for notes, and they usually give you kind of notes on like what they want from a character, for each character, and they give you kind of like, well, this person's going to be meek and mild here, but then they kind of, grow up a little bit throughout the book, or I really want like a very like Southern twang for this one person, and things like that. And those notes are usually in the audition as well. So I know if they have a lot of very specific things with a lot of characters, it's going to be exhausting. So I better be prepared for that. But I do like to read through the audition a couple times and see if I like the author's style, because I'm one of those people, I can't sell something that I don't believe in. So if I really hate the way it's written or just the way it's the storyline or the subject matter, then I'm not going to read it. And I think I really got, at first I was kind of auditioning for anything and everything just to try it out. And I did a couple of really horrible, terrible books. And then I was like, no, I'm better than this. I'm worth good books.
Right.
So I just kind of, I have to get in a mindset of the book too, and kind of like delve into the characters, which probably comes from acting and things like that I've done in the past. And so that's why I do one book at a time. So
that makes sense.
So I don't crisscross my characters.
Right.
Because that would be very strange, because then everyone would start to sound the same. But for your book specifically, I thought at first I was going to have to read through it to prepare myself. And then as I started, I just kind of started recording. And I was like, no, I have to do this kind of raw. So when you're listening to the book, I am reacting to the subject matter as I'm reading it. I did have to go back a couple times and change some things up and things like that. And there were times when I had to pause. I mean, I really had to pause, and I could only record like one chapter a day. But you can hear it in my voice. There is things in that book that, Tamara, I don't know how you do it. And so,
well, I don't do it anymore.
I know. Yeah. But that book was rough. It was hard to read. But
now you know why it took me so long to write it.
Exactly. But it was very eye-opening for me too. And I think that people in law enforcement, as well as outside of law enforcement, who are just curious about what real CSI is about, will appreciate the book for sure.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you very much as a narrator, and it's going to sound good. It does sound good. I've already heard the entire book narrated by you. And just so the listeners know, we have already submitted it. We are waiting for the programmers to say yes. They're doing their final checks, and we should know probably in a week or two, and then it will go live. Yeah. So so that's going to be exciting. I can't wait. We're going to take a super quick break. And when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about a recent episode that you aired on your podcast titled Mama Has Lost Her Mind.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I want to talk about that and delve into that. We'll be right back.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. And there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's anchor.fm.
Are you interested in CSI or forensics? The Forensic Science Academy program has been recognized as the premier training program completely dedicated to students who are launching their forensic career. The Academy offers specialized hands-on training modules in basic and advanced crime scene investigation, forensic photography, fingerprint identification and classification, crime scene management, and coroner investigations. Instruction is offered in the form of weekend workshops, online courses, webinars, and seminars. Training at the Academy of Forensic Science will give students the competitive edge employers and agencies are looking for when hiring. Past graduates are now working as crime scene investigators, private investigators, forensic pathologists, coroner investigators, forensic nurses, forensic accountants, and even criminalists. The courses are taught by forensic professionals who are experts in the field and hold membership in the International Association for Identification and other professional forensic organizations. For more information, visit forensicscienceacademy.org. Again, that's forensicscienceacademy.org. Are you looking for Thin Blue Line gear? It's available on our website at thinbluelineforwomen.com. That's thinblueline, 4, women.com. Show your support for law enforcement and get your Thin Blue Line gear today. Just click on shop at thinbluelineforwomen.com. And we're back from break. So I want to talk about your episode titled Mama Has Lost Her Mind. You talk about the difficulties of being, a quote unquote, and I'm air quoting here, being a single mom.
Right.
And you can talk about that because you're not a single mom, but
Correct.
You are. And you discuss mom guilt, the double-edged sword, as you put it, of being a working mom. So tell me and the listeners where that episode came from in your gut.
This episode, again, was super, super raw. I just went at it. I didn't really prepare. I just knew that I wanted to vent and rant. And I thought, well, if it's good, I'll keep it. If it's not, then I've had a therapy session with myself. But it came from, this was a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, before COVID started. And I am an Army spouse. My husband and I have been married 12 years now. We have a almost 4-year-old son, but he was not in the military when we got married. My dad was actually in the Navy for 22 years, and my mom was in the Navy. So I come from a military family, so I'm used to that lifestyle, but it's so different coming from a child to being married to the military. It's totally different. I think I was better prepared for that, but it is a huge difference. So my husband's been in the Army for almost 10 years now. And we've been through a deployment before, but we didn't have kids at that time. And I talk about that in the episode. We didn't have our son. We had a dog, but different.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you go into a different mode when they deploy or when they are gone for a long time. You kind of go into like superwoman mode a little bit because you know that you have to carry everything. And it's difficult because you become a single parent, but you're not a single parent. So it's so hard sometimes because you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you would normally be sharing that with someone. And now you're carrying everything on you. So that episode came after a particularly rough 2 weeks. My husband had been gone since November. Came back for Christmas for a brief time and then left again. I'm trying to potty train our son. I'm trying to work about part-time at the salon that I'm at. I was trying to record some books. And at that time I was recording 2 at the same time, which was a big mistake because it was too much. I was doing my podcast. I was also trying to keep our house together. We have 2 cats and a dog, taking care of them. And then we got hit with the flu. And my son tested positive for H1N1 flu. And it was just insane because I felt like I couldn't catch a break. And normally I would be able to lean on my husband and he would be able to maybe stay home from work or come home from work early so that I could go to work. But while he's gone, I'm 100% reliant on the daycare. And, if they have a fever, they can't go, which I understand. I mean, I wouldn't want someone sending their sick kid to daycare too, but that means I can't go to work because I can't ask my friends to watch my kid who's sick because they have kids and I don't want them to get sick. And when you're a military spouse, you're usually not near family. So in times like that, people be like, oh, why didn't you call your mom or something like that? Well, she lives in Florida. I live in Oklahoma. I can't just there were times during that week when I was like, I'm going to call my mother to come fly up here right now.
Get on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of all compressed on me in those 2 weeks because he got sick. So I had to stay home and reschedule all my clients. And then I got sick. So of course I had to stay home and reschedule all my clients. And then he kind of got sick again. And it was just too much. I mean, I was really losing my mind. And we were stuck at home in the house together, sick for like 5 days in a row. And yeah, it was the worst because I couldn't, like, he was like hyper. The cough medicine and stuff that I was giving, like the medicine that they gave me to give him, like made him hyper. So, excuse me. So I would be laying in bed just totally miserable in the afternoon, wanting to just take a nap and sleep. And he was literally jumping on the bed next to me. And I'm just trying to lay there. I'm like laying there moaning, like, and he's jumping on the bed going, Mom, Mommy, Mom. I mean, this was the point. At one point, I literally had to just like put him in the living room and give him all the goldfish I could find and all the juice and whatever he wanted. And I just went in the bedroom and I locked the door for like an hour. And I was like, I guess if he screams loud enough, I will hear him. And that's where the whole mom guilt came in because I shouldn't leave my 3.5-year-old alone in the living room, while I go lay down. That's just insane. But I thought, you know what? I have to do what I have to do so that we both make it out of this house alive. And if it means giving him all the goldfish and ice cream or whatever he wants so that I can take a 1-hour nap, then that's what I'm going to do. So I kind of just explored that and I just kept talking. I just kept, feeling my feels and speaking my truth. And I like that episode a lot because I know there were some other moms out there. My friends called me and told me that they've felt the same way, but they never wanted to say it.
Right.
They didn't want to acknowledge it.
Right. Well, it's embarrassing.
It is, yeah.
To some extent, and it makes you look weak, and it's you're trying to be super mom, and you're like, oh, I can handle this, but oh my Lord. I mean, we're all stuck at home right now, but we didn't have the flu like you guys did, and you both had it at the same time.
Yes, and it was just us.
That's horrible.
Which is, on a side note, I actually, because of that experience, I picked up and brought my dog and my son and myself down to Florida. We got in the car and drove down here to quarantine ourselves with my parents so that I wouldn't have to be alone like that, because I know I would have lost my mind. Because it takes 3 grown adults to keep this kid entertained and busy throughout the day. That's with my dad. He's working from home in the office right now. And it's insane. So that's why I'm here now, because of that experience.
Right.
I am traumatized for the rest of my life.
You need support.
Yes.
Everyone needs support of some sort.
Yes. And
when they're going through that.
Yeah. And it's, there's a quote that I say in there. I don't know where I found it, but I do remember it. It's, I feel like people expect women to work like they don't have kids and raise their kids like they don't have to work, which is the double-edged sword. It's completely unfair. And I think it is changing in our society now, slowly but surely. But I mean, women only had the vote in, less than 100 years ago. We got the vote. So, it's slowly changing, but there's still that expectation that we should be able to handle the home and also our jobs, which is unrealistic.
I know.
Completely unrealistic.
You're right.
Yeah. And you are a single mom working too, and not just, working a desk job. I mean, you had a tough job.
Yeah, it wasn't planned to be like that. I was married at the time when I adopted my daughter. I had 4 miscarriages before that, but we separated within 2 weeks of bringing her back from her country, and I raised her alone, like truly alone. I readopted her, and she's been mine ever since. And so I am her mother, and she was raised without a father, but she was from an orphanage in Kazakhstan. And so, circumstances were horrible back then, and that's why I chose to raise her on my own. It's worked out for the better. Yeah. Because the alternative would not have been good. But yeah, I have been a true single mom, with with minimal support all of her life since she was a baby, and working 12-hour shifts and having morning daycare and night daycare. I had to have both. Right. I was always broke. I was always tired just from 12-hour shifts. But I'll tell you, through all of that, I was still a very proud mom, and I was very happy to be her mom. So it didn't matter what was going on in my life or how stressed I was or how tired I was. At the end of the day, I was very thankful to have her and thankful to be her mom. Yeah. So I always just tried to end on that positive note, like, thank God I have her. She's amazing.
Yeah. Ben is my rainbow baby. So we had 2 miscarriages before him. Yeah. And so every day I'm so thankful for him, even when he drives me insane or elbows me in the face in the middle of the night. Oh, side note, he can't sleep by himself since Daddy left. He has to sleep in bed with me. And I'm like, that if that's the worst, then whatever. But you and your dad can work that out when he gets back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I share the bed with the dog and him and 2 cats usually. So.
Okay, I might throw you off here. Name 3 of the worst things about being a single mom. I mean, while your husband's away, you're a single mom. So name 3 of the worst things that you can think of.
The worst part is I'm never alone. I can't take a shower by myself. I can't take a bath by myself. Yeah, he'll come in and he'll be like, please, I take a bath with you, and just start stripping. And I'm like, why not? I wasn't trying to relax or anything. No. So I think it's just never being alone unless I'm at work. 2 is just having to do everything myself or hire someone to do it. I hate to do that. I want to do it myself. But there are some things I can't do by myself. And 3 is having to be the good cop and the bad cop. We used to be able to. Yeah. I can't blame it on him anymore. So I have to be, I have to yell at him and not yell at him, but I have to reprimand him. Yeah. And then 2 seconds later, he's turning around going, Mommy. And it's I have to hold him too. So I can't stay mad at him. I mean, it's I have to be both. I think that's the worst.
What are 3 best things about being a single mom while your husband's away? Are there any?
There are. Yeah, there actually are. I think one is we settle into our own routine, and it can be kind of a weird, quirky routine. And if we want to eat popcorn for dinner, then we eat popcorn for dinner because there's no rules when it comes to that. So I love that we have our own little, it's me and him together, and we have our own little thing. The second one would be, I guess, proving that I can do it on my own. As much support as he gives me, through the phone and FaceTime and things like that, knowing that I can conquer all of this on my own is pretty empowering. It's like, okay, I can do it.
Oh,
it sucks, but I can do it. And the last part is, I think, and then this may just be, like deployment talking, but, absence does kind of make the heart grow fonder. So I feel like the best part of it is that we know that there is an end to this, and we're really excited to see each other again. And we really we try not to take things for granted. So the other day I just had the phone up and my son and my husband were playing. My husband actually took some cars with him to where he is so that he could play with my son over the phone like that. And, it's little things like that I know when he gets back will mean more to us. So
is he somewhere where you're allowed to tell us where he's at? Or is he overseas?
Yeah. I mean, he's in Turkey right now. He's not deployed in the traditional sense. He's not in a combat zone. He is actually working with NATO. Okay. So it's a really cool assignment, and we were super excited for it. We had actually planned on me and our son coming there and visiting him. And then all this happened, and now they are on lockdown. They're not allowed to leave the country until June 30th is the current advisement from the Department of Defense.
Gotcha.
So, that put a real big cramp in our style.
Oh, yeah. Well, when does his deployment end? When does he come home?
November.
So you have a long time still.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
How often do you get to talk to him? On the phone or FaceTime?
Fortunately, we talk every day, twice a day. The thing is that he is 9 hours ahead of me. So like right now he's just waking up. In fact, before we got on, we were texting. And so we text all the time and FaceTime. I try to FaceTime him if he gets off work early enough and it works out. We try and FaceTime kind of mid-morning and just talk about, we try to keep it as normal as possible. But there's some days when we're just sitting there looking at each other and I'm like, I love you, but I don't got anything to say. And he's like, yeah, me neither. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll text you later. And for us, sometimes we'll just text each other goofy pictures or memes. We're really big into texting, just to keep in touch and just make each other smile and let each other know that we're thinking about one another.
Does the military still have Audubon? You probably don't even know what that is. Where you can get on the phone and call each other for free. It's not the Autobahn that people drive on in Germany. Is that called
right?
Autobahn? This is Autobahn with a V. Okay. So if there's anybody listening that's in the military that's my age, I'm 50, that was in a long time ago, if you've heard of the Autobahn, please send me a message. I want to know.
I'll ask my parents tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they still have that because it was a free. And when I was overseas, I was in the Philippines for a year and a half, and I learned how to. I don't think I can get in trouble for this now. I learned how to undermine the system and get through and talk and get a free Audubon phone call because it wasn't for everybody. You had to be a special, like, high-ranking person and make a special phone call back to the States for a official reason. And I found a lot of us found our way around that. We got to call home and say hi to mom.
No, I'm pretty sure they don't have that anymore because
probably because we all have cell phones. Yeah, because we didn't have anything like that. No Facebook, no social media, no cell phones, nothing like that. We literally wrote letters back and forth. It took like a month to get there. Oh, I'm dating myself. So, do you have any advice for military wives or single mothers? that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah. I think so. If you are thinking about marrying someone in the military, or your spouse is thinking about joining the military, don't let the hardships scare you. There's a quote from, I don't know his name, but he was my husband's recruiter. And some people have really bad stories about recruiters lying to them and telling him like, oh, it's going to be so awesome, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out it's not. This recruiter was great. He'd been in for a while. He was married, and he asked me to come to the recruiting office with my husband. And he sat down. He's like, okay, are you ready for this? And I said, well, my dad was in the Navy. Like, I'll be fine. He goes, okay, but you're not ready for this. He said, the military does not break up marriages. It shows you the cracks, and you can choose to fix them or let them break. And that kind of quote has stuck with myself and my husband throughout the years, because yes, the military has put enormous pressure and strain on our relationship, on our marriage, and it has shown us some cracks. But we have chosen to fill them and repair and strengthen our marriage. In fact, there's a Japanese art form where they take broken pottery, and instead of putting it back together and using just a clear glue, they use gold, because they find beauty in the brokenness.
Oh, wow.
And that's another, I'll have to look up the name of it.
I love that.
And that's another thing that we talk about. Like, we find beauty in the brokenness, because if you can get through that, just think about how much more there is to strive for, if that makes sense. And the military is really awesome. We lived in Germany for 3 years. We plan on going overseas again when we're given the opportunity. We travel a lot. It is nice to know that there's always going to be a paycheck there. The healthcare is pretty good. I mean, it's there. That's what counts. It's always there. And there is a sense of belonging and family when you are part of that, part of the military. So don't let that scare you away from it. Just be ready to fight for each other and choose each other every single day. It's not easy sometimes, but it's worth it in the end. It really is. And as for single moms, I mean, I'm not technically, I'm not really a single mom, but right now I kind of am. And all I can say is don't get down on yourself. We're all allowed to have bad days, bad weeks. But as long, I said this in that episode, as long as your kid is happy, healthy, and thriving, then you've done it. So what if they ate goldfish for dinner last night? Like, that's not going to kill them. Okay.
Right.
Maybe throw some vegetables in there once a week. Okay, great. But if they ate chicken nuggets 4 nights in a row, who cares? Like, they will survive. I think
just don't bash yourself and put yourself down.
Exactly. Don't put yourself down, and enjoy the times, the little things and the little traditions and the little moments throughout the day that are good and wonderful. When your kid comes running up to you and says like, "You're my best friend," like that just like melts your heart, and you're just like, okay, like, me crying in the bathroom for 20 minutes was totally worth it, because my kid doesn't care. They don't care that there's dirty dishes or, I haven't vacuumed in 2 weeks. Like, that's not what they care about. So don't be so hard on yourself. And if just, screw mom guilt, it's not worth it.
No, I know.
It's really not.
Now go back to that Japanese art thing. What did you say, that was a quote, or was that something that you can send?
It is an art form. Yeah.
You know why I like it? Because you said something, what did you say? Find beauty in the brokenness?
Yes.
Okay, that reminds me of all of us police officers.
Yep.
And cops and EMTs and medics that have gone through post-traumatic stress, that have seen things that the human should not see.
Yes.
So that I like that. I'm gonna have to research that some more.
Yeah, it's kintsugi.
Oh,
KINTSUGI. And it's the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage with lacquer dusted or mixed with powdered gold.
I love it. Okay.
And it's precious, the art of precious scars.
Aw, I love that
it's so beautiful to me because it's like that bowl, which to me is a relationship, or to me it's a relationship. That bowl is precious enough to put back together using gold, which is, worth so much. That gold is worth more than the bowl was, but now the bowl takes on the worth of that gold.
Yeah.
And it's just that's kind of how I'm living my life now.
Yeah, you're doing it your own way, like the single mom / military wife. And I'm thinking of it as, police officers and all these suicides that we're having, they can put their lives back together using that gold. The art of precious scars. I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing that with me because I'm going to research that more. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now let's lighten this up just a tad and then we'll close. I got some weird questions for you. Coffee or tea?
Oh, okay. So coffee all the way. I could drink coffee all day, every day.
Ugh, I don't like coffee at all.
And I don't like hot tea, but I'll drink iced tea for sure.
Gotcha. Now you live in Oklahoma, so you're not in the South. You're considered the Midwest, right? I know. What are you like? What's Oklahoma? It's above Texas. I don't know, because I am a California girl, but I just moved to Tennessee, so now I'm from the South. I still won't drink iced. I mean that sweet tea crap.
Sweet tea, yeah.
Now I know Benjamin Tyler Smith is listening to this episode, and I know that Brad Pridgeon. Who else is going to argue with me about this? There's somebody else that. You've got to drink sweet tea. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I'll live here all my life and I'm not going to drink sweet tea. It's gross. Blech.
I love iced tea, but I can't do full sweet. Like I always order half sweet, half unsweet tea. And even then, sometimes it's way too much. So if I'm in charge of it, it's like unsweet.
It's so bitter.
No, I like it.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Favorite type of food? Like Italian or steak? Like, what do you like? If you could have anything right now, what would you
Seafood.
Would you have?
I love fresh, good seafood. I'm not talking like Red Lobster or like Long John Silver's.
I love Red Lobster.
Oh, no. Oh, God, I can't. I think it's because I grew up on the East Coast in New England type area. We lived in Newport, Rhode Island for a long time. And then my parents, they live in Florida now. And so it's like, I love fresh seafood. And in Oklahoma, like we're a landlocked state. Like you're not getting fresh seafood unless it's catfish. And I hate catfish. So
gross.
So seafood is I eat it like when we're here on vacation, I usually have it almost every day.
Wow. Gotcha.
In fact, we have a big thing of salmon in the fridge we're going to grill tomorrow night. I'm so excited.
Good. Favorite flavor of ice cream? Do you have one?
I do. It's called Moose Tracks.
Oh my gosh, my daughter loves Moose Tracks.
I love Moose Tracks.
It's all right. I know this questions are for you, not for me. Now, we'll end on my audiobook. I want to thank you again for narrating it. You have the most wonderful voice, and I'm not joking. I picked you out of like 5 or 6 other ladies who had great voices. But when I heard yours, I'm like, yes, she you just, I don't know what it is. I can't even describe it, but you really make the book even better. And I like that you did it raw, because when I had to listen to it to review it to make sure, it sounded the way I liked it, you had me in tears of my own book, because your voice was cracking, or or it faded out, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, wait, why am I tearing up? And at one point my daughter goes, Mom, are you in there crying? And I go, well, she's just doing such a good job on my book.
I think it's because I took it. I mean, I took it and it was not just words on the page for me, because I kind of know you, and I was like, this is her life. I am emoting her words, her story. And so it really kind of took on, I mean, I have the scenes in my head, like
I'm sorry.
I'm walking through them, and no, and I needed to, but there were some in there that were rough.
What was your I'm going to say your worst chapter? Like which chapter was the hardest for you to do? Do you remember?
I think there were two. The boy in the box, like that really got me. And
I'm wondering, because your boy's 4 years old.
Yeah. And
because that one didn't really bother me that much, which was
the little blonde girl.
Ugh, that one.
Those two really got me. Because
oh my gosh, you're crying right now.
About it. Yeah, it's rough. So, but I hope that this book, and especially the last chapter where you talk about there is hope, there is joy, and it's worth living for. I really hope people take that to heart, because
that was the whole point of it. Well, it began as me just writing down the worst scenes that kept popping into my head. I did it for therapy reasons, but then once I had them all down, I thought it's gonna have to be a book. I mean, it's gonna have to help people in some way, and I really hope that it has. I've received a couple of emails about it. But so I wanted to say thank you for narrating that, and it should be out in a couple weeks, guys. I'm excited. It's an audio book coming on Audible. That's the name of it. So through Amazon. Mm-hmm. So as soon as it's out, I will be sharing it all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I know you will too, because you are the narrator. So I want everyone to hear your voice. So it's going to be wonderful. Tia, thank you. I super appreciate it. Thank you for being raw and real with me about
always
being a mama. So if you haven't heard of her podcast and you haven't listened to any episodes yet, it is called the Resting Mom Face Podcast. She is everywhere on Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just find her somewhere. And then just click on her link and you'll be able to find her.
Yeah, you can go to www.restingmomcast.com, and that has everything on there. I have merchandise that will take you to all my links, and you can find my YouTube channel as well. And of course, your book, I will have that linked up there too once that comes out.
Oh, good. So, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Got to promote it.
Thank you. All right, lady. Well, you have a wonderful week.
You too.
Have a wonderful time there with your family in Florida, and take good care of yourself in lockdown.
Oh,
don't go to the beach, because I know it just opened again.
Oh my God.
Don't go to the darn beach. Just stay home.
We're staying home. We have a mini beach in our backyard, a little kiddie pool.
COVID-19. Darn it.
So over it.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. I love you. Have a great time there.
Of course. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
That was my interview with Tia Johnson, host of the Resting Mom Face podcast, and also narrator for my book, titled Through My Eyes, CSI Memoirs That Haunt the Soul. In my memoir, I'll take you behind the crime scene tape and share my personal experiences of the most grueling and heartbreaking crime scenes I'd ever worked in my 15 years in CSI. The book is available in paperback form and ebook, online at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Thanks for listening, and join me next week. If you're enjoying the Real Life podcast, I invite you to consider supporting it monetarily. Just 99 cents a month will go a long way to secure future podcasts. Where exactly does your money go? It pays the monthly fees to use the program to record the guests. I want to recognize and thank the following people for supporting the Real Life podcast: Ron, Ben, Katie, Paul, Kelly, Anne, and Cammie. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll decide to support the Real Life podcast. Just click on the podcast link that I post on Twitter and Facebook. Then click on the box that reads support with a $sign. You're all amazing. See you next week.